Hello, and welcome to the Spec Shaman Podcast, the show that explores the world of building product manufacturers, architects, and engineers, sustainable design, and technology and trends. We engage in thought-provoking discussions with renowned experts, industry pioneers, and visionaries who are making a significant impact in the construction industry. Join us as we explore groundbreaking ideas, revolutionary concepts, and the latest advancements shaping the built environment. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Let's get started.
Hi, and welcome to the Spec Shaman Podcast. I'm your host, Megan Vipond. I'm joined today by Mark Valdino, Chief Executive Officer at Firebot Suppression, Inc. He is here today to discuss with us the risk of fires, along with the technology and the impact of fire suppression systems. Mark, to kick us off, what inspired you to get involved in fire safety and suppression technology?
Well, years ago, I was looking at a smoke sensor and going, what a wonderful device. They're in every home, every commercial building, and they will warn of a fire, but wonder if they could not only warn of a fire, but actually put one out. So I started thinking about it, and yeah, it can be done. You can put a stovetop fire suppression system in, and that is the start of over half of home or residential fires. So if you can put a device concentrated there that can actually extinguish a fire, you've saved everybody billions of dollars, including the homeowners, the insurance companies, and even the fire departments. They're responding to 50% less fires. That's a savings of their resources and actually preventing a lot of injuries. Many times there's a residential fire, they're obligated to go into that burning building to see if there's any survivors or occupants that have been overcome by smoke inhalation, just to check, make sure nobody's injured. And many times the building is such a mess from a fire that the roof collapses or a doorway and they get injured too. So we have if you can stop half of all residential fires and they all start on a stovetop, that's a great, great accomplishment.
Absolutely. And we definitely want to understand those kitchen fires and the risks a little bit more. Can you share the latest fire safety statistics and any trends in fire incidents, injuries, and fatalities?
Well, it's from the National Fire Prevention Association, and they take statistics from all the fire departments. And according to their calls and what they responded to, it could be a cat stuck in a tree, could be an accident, but 50% of their calls are to home fires that originate on a stovetop. So that's just a statistic from the firefighters. On top of that, there's probably a million other stovetop fires that don't get reported, but they result in some form of injury, a burn maybe, or some extent of home damage. The occupants were able to put out the fire, but I was talking to a nurse from Johns Hopkins University who's in charge of the burn unit, and she says that 80% of their burn victims that come in are from a stovetop fire. That's how they get burned, putting out the fire. Yet they were able to put out the fire, and that doesn't count the 380,000 fires a year that the fire departments respond to that are out of control that they can't put out.
Wow. So what are some of the most common causes of those fires in a home?
Well, it's all the time. You have, I say, man had a great idea. He invented fire, and then a not so great idea. He brought it into the house, right? So when you turn those burners on, you have a heat source that can ignite any kind of paper, cardboard, dish rag. If you're cooking and you're not paying attention, that heat's strong enough to auto flash cooking oil or butter or anything like that. Even whatever you're cooking can become a combustible. Say even like noodles, dry noodles, when they can ignite on fire. So you can start a fire any way possible on your stovetop. And if you're not paying attention, or if you leave the room for a minute because you got a phone call, or you hear your child crying in the other room, you can have a stovetop fire. It happens every day, everywhere in the country. So you have your stovetop fires are number one cause of all fires in a home. Over 50% of all home fires start on the stovetop. I would say the second leading cause could be dryer vent obstructions, where the dryer vent gets clogged with lint or a sock or a bird's nest in the exhaust area, and your dryer can catch on fire. You have of course, your traditional one, kids playing with matches, but you have candles, you have electrical shorts, but actually electrical shorts cause about 1.5% of all home fires, so it's not big on the list. You'd have maybe cooking grills start a home fire. Something happens where it catches the surrounding porch material on fire or something like that. So many, many causes of home fires, but the majority, over 50%, start on your stovetop.
So, why are those stovetop fires particularly dangerous?
Well, usually they start, and the reason they start is nobody's paying attention. So once they start too, especially with a cooking oil involved, cooking oil is very, very dangerous. It's actually more dangerous than a gasoline fire. The auto flash on cooking oil is about 625 degrees Fahrenheit. So it'll catch on fire, and it's a heck of a fire. And even if you uh, cover it with the lid of a pan and take it off, it'll what's called reflash. So you think you have it out, and a lot of the advertisements you see for the fire blankets, wonderful. They look like they work on TV, but if you cover up a stovetop fire that has cooking oil involved, you the fire will burn out the sides, and if you remove it, the fire auto flashes. So it's not really a solution. It's just the way the blanket manufacturers make money. You have the other two problems. Well, you have to be present in order to take it out of its package and throw it on the fire. But then what you don't see in the commercials too is the room is probably filled up with smoke. And where did you put the blanket? And then, like I say, it's not an absolute guarantee you're going to put out the fire, even with the fire blanket. So you have the next thing, kind of called it baking soda in a can. You put it up over your burners. Fire gets high enough, which now causes damage on your range hood, or even possibly it's lapping up against your wooden cabinets, can catch them on fire before it activates. And then it dumps out through a firecracker. It explodes and opens up the aluminum bottom, and baking soda falls out, hopefully putting out the fire in your pans or where you're cooking, but not always, because you think about it, your range hood is 6 inches short of the edge of your stove, so you got 6 inches that it can't really cover. So you're taking a chance with that. But that's been out maybe 50 years. It's been the only device out. You have another one that the smoke sensor goes off, and it's set to turn off your electric to the stove by listening to a smoke sensor activation. And that may work, but again, if you have a live fire, it's not going to put out the fire. It may prevent a fire if it's smoking enough to activate and shut off your power to the stove, so that you don't get an auto flash. And then you have another one out that actually measures the temperature above the stovetop. And once it's above, say, 250 degrees, it activates a pump, sprays out suppressant, not water, and will put out the fire, and actually will cover the 30 by 24-inch surface. Absolutely. So wherever the fire is on that surface, it'll be extinguished.
Given that cooking fires are the leading cause of home fires, are there any key design choices that can make kitchens safer without compromising aesthetics or functionality?
Well, there's, like say, there has not been a residential stovetop fire suppression system, especially designed for a stovetop. Okay. You start out, you can go a commercial system, which is fine. They only cost, $3,000-$4,000, and then they require yearly maintenance. There are some newer systems out, like I just described, everything from the canister to the circuit breaker method to the one that actually sprays out suppressant. Um, I would have to say that aesthetic wise, I would say that the commercial version I described, I'll say the canister version, look a little clunky. The circuit breaker, it's down below the stove. Um, they have to hook it in, and you know, it's a little bit more intensive on the labor to install it. Whereas the other one, where it sprays out the suppressant, you can actually mount it to the back wall. Takes about maybe 60 to 90 seconds to install it, and then it's good there for 10 years. Um, they the we I have talked to a range hood manufacturer that we're working on building our fire suppressant system into the range hood. So now it's seamless. It's built in, you don't even know it's there. And if you do have a stovetop fire, it activates, puts out the fire. So it's a little bit like the commercial systems that are out there, which are, by code, you have to install in every commercial kitchen. Well, now you have a built-in for residential. So not there yet, but the powers that be are working on it.
That's great. So you talked a little bit about some existing modern fire suppression systems and how they respond to fires. How have the fire safety trends for residential buildings evolved in recent years?
Well, it hasn't. It's a big problem for any kind of apartment complex, condominium, uh, even residential homes, in that if a fire breaks out, there really is no way to put it out unless the occupants are in the kitchen. They may have a fire extinguisher handy. Sometimes fire extinguishers don't even work because it's what's called a Class K fire, and they have an ABC extinguisher, the traditional red one, whereas every commercial kitchen is required to have a Class K, which is white in color, and it's designed specifically for cooking oils. So you have that. I described the fire blanket earlier, where it looks good. You throw it over the fire. Many times it doesn't even put out the fire. So you're down to the fire suppression systems for a range hood, and there's not too many choices, and nobody's really installed them like they should have. The one entity that should be the best to promote it are the insurance companies, because if they had a fire suppression device in every kitchen, guess what? Their claims would drop by 50%. So why don't they recommend this? Much like the story of the seatbelt. When the seatbelts came about, uh, they cut down traffic or injuries by 50%. So the insurance companies should be the ones promoting fire safety in the kitchens, and they don't. They would be the big winners because they would reduce their claims by 50%, stopping half of all fires, right? The property management companies would be the next big winners, because they could have a fire breakout in a homeowner's kitchen and not only burn the unit they're in, but burn down the whole building, displacing maybe up to 40 different residents in that building. So they would be the ones to prosper from that too. Many of them say, well, we have insurance, but then what they don't have is they don't have a deductible. That many of these homeowners have a deductible of $2,000 to $4,000 on damage, property management companies up to 100,000. So if they can stop even one stovetop fire, stop the damage, they're saving big bucks. And then you have the premium. The premiums keep going up. If they could get a discount on the premium, or even make sure the premium doesn't increase year over year, they're a big winner there too. And why they wouldn't increase is the insurance companies aren't paying claims for fires that never happen. You have the fourth element where you do have a fire and the residents are displaced, or the homeowner, they have to live out of a hotel for 20 days while their kitchen's getting replaced or refurbished. So you have a lot of reasons to put in fire suppression for a kitchen stovetop. It's no reason why not to. And like I was saying, alluding to the seatbelt story, years ago, Volvo was the first auto company to put seatbelts in their car. And of course, there's a clunky, Swedish automobile, Ford Mustang or Camaro had done it, we would adopt the seatbelts a whole lot quicker. But an insurance adjuster was looking at the claims, medical claims from Volvos, and paying out 50% less than all the other car manufacturers. You go, "Well, what's the reason?" It was a seatbelt. All the insurance companies went to the automotive safety federal agency and said, "Can you go to Detroit and talk to everybody and have them put seatbelts in?" And they fought it. They fought it for years, even though back then it was a $10 seatbelt. So they resisted. Finally, they won out. And look what you have today. You not only have seatbelts, shoulder harnesses, rear seatbelts, airbags, side impact panels, a million safety devices. And that was really brought about by the insurance companies saying to the auto manufacturers, "Hey, it's good for personal safety." And the auto manufacturers go, "It's actually good for sales. People like these safety items." So we hope that the residential marketplace adopts that same mentality, that if we can stop fires, let's do so. The technology is there.
Absolutely. That technology for the automatic fire suppression devices is great. How are they able to differentiate, though, between normal cooking heat and a dangerous fire?
Well, yeah, I mean, they use different methodology. One, like I was describing earlier, the canister type actually has a fuse, and through normal cooking, the fuse doesn't light. But just like you light a fuse on a firecracker or stick of dynamite, the flame actually has to touch the fuse to ignite it. So that's how they prevent false alarms, because the fire has to be definitely out of control and lapping up on the range hood or microwave area in order to get an ignition of their fuse, right? The other brand, actually, same kind of thing. The fire has to get so out of control, it creates enough smoke, so the smoke sensor goes off. Now, in many, many kitchens, unfortunately, they don't put a smoke sensor in the kitchen because just normal cooking would activate the smoke sensor. So a lot of times they just put it out in the foyer to remove it from the immediate smoke you may get from cooking. So it's not as timely, it's not as effective. You have the other manufacturer I talked about, which uses the liquid suppressant, and it uses temperature. So when the temperature gets up to 250 degrees Fahrenheit, it reads it. Okay, that's not normal, because normal cooking, I don't think you'd get any temperature above 150 degrees Fahrenheit. So when it reads 250, it activates, puts out any kind of fire you may have underneath. And I know the suppressant is non-toxic, biodegradable, so you can just clean it up with paper towels and recook your food. I wouldn't eat the food that was on the burners, but it can be cleaned up very easily, and you can start dinner again. And
Yeah, so speaking of those chemicals then, Can you explain the role of the fire suppression chemicals and
Yeah.
how and if they're designed to be safe for home use?
Yeah, they're 100% safe. They're like they're non-toxic. It's rated on the label. They're not like the EFFs that the fire departments were using for fire control and all that. But what it does is it actually cools the temperature of the cooking oil below the flash point. Along with it would actually cool whatever fire substrate you have, whether it be food or cardboard or paper or cloth. So it puts out the fire. And then one requirement of UL 300A is that that fire has to stay out for 5 minutes. Okay, so not only puts out the fire, reduces the flash point below the temperature needed to auto flash, it puts a surfactant on the cooking oil or whatever substrates there, so it robs it of oxygen. So it can't, two things. It's below the flash point and it can't get oxygen to burn. So it does two things, and it does it very effectively. I mean, I've seen it in tests where you've had the burner on, and it will not even reflash for 40 minutes because it can't get oxygen into the substrate, which is the fuel for the fire.
So,
Is that
what challenges exist in designing a fire suppression system that is both effective and easy to install?
well, number one is you don't want false alarms because it wouldn't do anybody any good. So the first first rule I would have to say is you'd have to have a device that is very sensitive, but doesn't react if there's not a true stovetop fire. Uh, I know the one manufacturer I was talking about, they've been in false alarm protection, whereas if the trip temperature is reached, it has to hold for 3.5 minutes. It can't be a sudden spike. It has to be a steady rise in the temperature. And say, for instance, if you're flambeing something and you throw some wine on it and you get a puff of flame and smoke, that's not going to activate it. It's only if it's there for maybe 3.5, 4 seconds that it's going to activate. So you build something that's false alarm proof. You build something that reacts before the fire gets out of control. And the best thing too is a notification. I know the one that uses fire suppressant has wireless communications so that the occupants know that there's been an activation. And same thing with the management company. It also monitors, low battery, monitors, it's got a heartbeat, so it's working every 6 hours. So a lot of features there where not only it's going to work for a fire, but you want the owners of the property to be notified also.
Now, how do open floor plans impact fire safety? And what strategies could design professionals employ to mitigate those potential risks?
It's very simple. I mean, just as if they're required by code to put in a smoke sensor, and actually your locks in the building are fire to fire code. They're right now they have one touch to exit, for example, where you have to have a lever handle and one motion to open the door in case of a fire. There's fire code throughout the whole building. I mean, even with your drywall, with how you do your framing, how you do your electrical, of course, you have to run your electrical a certain way in the framing so you don't put a drywall screw in or nail and puncture the power, right? So there's hundreds of fire code in every building. All they'd have to do is say, I'm going to specify a residential stovetop fire suppression system, and poof, they've cut out half of all residential fires. For the cost and the probability, it's a good thing to build in since the technology is available to everybody now. That's the big. I wouldn't say it was as robust or effective even 5 years ago, but they've come out with these wonderful new systems that, much like the seat belt, I think it's a intermission of guilt if you don't specify these items in a home.
So then what industry certifications should consumers and design professionals look for when purchasing a fire suppression system?
Well, the thing is, none of these are built into fire code yet. They're getting there where the fire marshals are examining them and they see that they are effective, but I don't know of one jurisdiction that has said, okay, along with our fire code in a new building, you have to have a stovetop fire suppression system in. Now, so that makes it optional, and that makes it a moral responsibility that the designers add these in, much like they do for many of their buildings. They may say, well, we want this style staircase. It still meets code, but it's a whole lot fancier than your standard little staircase, or it's curved instead of just straight up, but it meets the standards of a stairwell, handrails, this and that. So, yeah, it would be nice if it was in building code, but nobody's gotten there yet, even though it's a publicity, kind of like educational mission to go to the fire marshals, fire departments, and I think the insurance companies to put pressure on the building code writers to put this in, because everybody wins. It's a no-brainer. I mean, if you can stop half the fires in all residences, I mean, who could say that? I mean, I know they spend $1 million on a pumper truck, but they can't recommend something to reduce fires by 50%. So that's where we're at on that now.
Yeah, can you tell me a little bit about UL 300A and its importance?
Yeah, UL 300A, UL 300 is what they use for commercial kitchens. And the only difference is 300A is for a smaller cooking surface, 24 inches by 30 inches, which is a residential stovetop. So the one company has a rating for 300A for residential stovetops, but you can't use it for a commercial kitchen because it hasn't been tested for a cooking surface, maybe, 10 or 15 feet in length. So same test, same 13 test where you have to put out cooking oil to auto flash and maybe 1 inch of cooking oil in a 10-inch pan, 4 inches in a crock pot. You even have to build a special pan, 30 inches by 24 inches filled with cooking oil, which represents the whole surface of the stovetop as if it caught on fire. Bring it to auto flash, and you have to be able to put it out. And I know the one company was able to do that between all the UL tests, all 13 tests, and even on the auto flash test where they had to keep it out for at least 5 minutes. They were able to do all that. So pretty effective as far as a firefighting device. I don't think you'll find anything better out there in the marketplace. And one reason is they use suppressant, not water. So you have no chance of it reflashing in all reality.
How do modern fire suppression systems integrate with smart home technology?
None of them do that I know of, except for the one I mentioned that uses the wireless communication. So call it just part of home automation where it constantly sends in signals every 6 hours. We're here, we're okay, it's the heartbeat. We can give a low battery, we could give an activation, we could give a high temperature alert, and actually communicate that in to a management company, the individuals in the unit, maybe a 24/7 central station. But you can also, it's you can download a free app, look at it, control it from that. So it is part of a smart home ecosystem where you may have your lights that come on and off when you enter a room, or a thermostat that clicks on, 6 o'clock when you get home. Uh, you see the video doorbell. So it's just another feature of home automation. But I say this device is a whole lot better because it's not just convenience. It can save you a ton of money. It can save your life by putting out the fire before it spreads throughout the whole kitchen or apartment or home.
So, with sustainability in mind, how can design professionals specify fire resistant, eco friendly materials that minimize the environmental impact of home fires?
Well, a lot of the materials that are specified in home materials are fire resistant. I mean, you're not allowed to install certain kinds of drywall or materials unless it meets fire code. Same thing with ceilings or ceiling or insulation. I mean, they used to have the styrofoam insulation, but that's highly flammable. Works well, but if you put a match to it, it burns like crazy. So they went back to a lot of the fiberglass rolls of insulation, which is, it's fire resistant, if not fireproof. So they do that in the houses or buildings anyway. So this is just another item they can add in to further fireproof everything in the home. Uh, just it just makes sense. That's all. And I think the insurance companies will get behind it too with fire marshals and go, why didn't we do this today? Because we can stop half of all residential fires just with a simple device, much like, you see locks on every door, or you see in your HVAC, your heating system, you have certain requirements for your main unit for ventilation, even just simple things like ventilation in bathrooms. It's just building code. You have to have a exhaust fan in a bathroom. There's plenty of materials out there, codes. This is just a no-brainer. Just add it in. It doesn't, for the value and the cost and what damage it can prevent. I mean, you have your whole house you design, you have your whole building you design. You don't want it to burn down to the ground under any circumstances, just for your own purposes and ideals.
What are the maintenance requirements for fire suppression devices and how often should they be checked?
Well, my opinion, they should be checked every day. Now, some of the devices out there, uh, the one that I was talking about, that's a canister type. There's no way to know if it'll ever work because it just sits there, and you hope that if the fuse catches on fire, the firecracker inside explodes right, and the panels open up, dumping out baking soda. Same thing with the one that uses a smoke sensor for activation. You hope the smoke sensor reads the fire early enough to turn off the power so it dampens the flame, but you don't know. The third one I talked about, every day it reads, the circuit board, the battery. We know if the bag is been used. So you get a check every 6 hours that it's there, which is what you really need. Um, I understand that the batteries last on there 10 years, even though it has a battery check. You may not need it for 10 years, but the owners of the building or property will know it's time to get a refresh kit in there, and you should replace the batteries. And along with that, the suppressant bag. The suppressant's been there 10 years, and the manufacturer says, every 10 years you should replace it just in case. Every 10 years, I would definitely recommend service on any of these products, if not before. I do know that the canisters and their documentation say you need to replace it every 6 years. So don't know why they say that unless they get a buildup of grease on there or cooking oil from cooking, and they're afraid it will catch on fire. I don't know, but I know the one lasts 10 years, and I'm not sure about the one that uses your smoke detector for an activation. I'm not a big champion of that one because it's got to hear the smoke detector, and the smoke detector has to sense the fire. A lot can go wrong versus, okay, we're above the stovetop, activate. Okay, it's a fire, let's put it out.
But what is the cost of installing a fire suppression system, and are there incentives for property owners?
Well, the property owner's incentive would come from the insurance companies. Now, I know for a fact that you do not get a discount right now today putting in any kind of fire suppressant device. You do if you put in a water leak notification device, because the insurance companies know that, oh, well, we know there's a water leak, we can mitigate the damage, and there you go. But the fire safety devices haven't been out long enough for them to go to say, okay, anybody that puts one of these in, we're going to give a discount to on their insurance premium. In order to do that, they do have to go to every state, all the state regulators, and get that passed by them. Just part of the insurance rules, so they don't get scamming insurance companies saying, no, we're going to give you 50% off, but you have to read the fine print. No, it's a set amount, and it's regulated by the states. And so they know everything's done fairly above the board. But the insurance companies haven't invested the energy yet to go to all the state regulators so that they may give a 5 or 10% discount on the premium in order that they can save 50% on overall claims, which is a no-brainer, but I'm sure they're going to get to it. That's all I can say. These devices are all new, and the protocol, the code, the builders have not caught up to the advantages of putting in a fire suppression system over the stovetop, even though guaranteed over 50% of the time, that's where the fire is going to start, in the home. It's just a fact. And that fact, again, comes from the fire departments who respond to these calls.
So I think you touched on this a moment ago, but the next question is, how can having a fire suppression system impact home insurance rates?
Yeah, I mean, right away, I can guarantee you, you probably won't get an increase because you won't have a major fire that the insurance company goes, you had a fire. We paid out a, $25,000 claim to rebuild your kitchen and your home. You had smoke damage, and, you even had some mold damage because the fire department came, sprayed out the hose. You got water damage, mold, this and that. And plus you had cost of staying in a hotel for, 20 days while they rebuilt it and the house was uninhabitable. So, we're going to raise your rates or not insure you anymore. So you're for the homeowner or property management company is forced to go out and find a new insurer and probably pay twice the rate, because the new insurer looks at the claims and goes, I see where you had a fire. I mean, you're at risk to have maybe another one. So we'll insure you, but we're going to charge you this much. So by not having fires, they can possibly get a discount. The insurance company can't advertise it. They may go, well, we won't raise your rates, and we'll still insure you because you're a great customer. You've had no incidents. There's no reason to drop you or to raise your rates. So I think that the overall, people will save money by installing these systems because they'll save money on deductibles. They won't have to worry about being canceled. They won't have to worry about rate increases. And they may even get a reduction in their insurance rate.
Absolutely. A lot of positive incentives across the board there.
Mhm.
So taking just a small step back at a little bit broader image, how do fire safety requirements differ between commercial and residential projects?
Well, commercial, they're all in. I mean, well, I would say forced, but if you go into a commercial building, they have a sprinkler system. They have a fire control system. Very expensive, but if you walk down a hall or into a room, you'll see a sprinkler head every 10 feet. That's building code. They've suggested many times to add this into residential properties, but it'll add 16,000 to the cost of a home to install a sprinkler system. And then you have maintenance and repair and inspections every year. And a lot of homeowners don't want to go through that expense, don't want to go through the time. You also have the possibility that in a home, you could have a false activation of a sprinkler head, even from just carrying a ladder in and bumping it. Now you've got all kinds of water damage where they're saying in commercial spaces, too bad, you could have 50 people on a floor, and that's just too many people to risk not having a sprinkler system in so you don't get a spread of fire. So the code is different for commercial buildings than residential. And so this is the start of putting in a residential fire suppression system over your stovetop. You've already cut out half of your fires. Um, you know, some of the other fires are caused, like I say, from electrical or from candles or from the dryer. You could put in sprinkler systems, but that's not the total answer too. You will still get a fire, and fire will burn a good portion of the home, to do a good portion of damage through smoke and flame. And then if you have the sprinkler system pop on, you could have that run for half an hour before the fire department arrives and shuts it off. So now you've got fire, smoke, and water damage. So the thing is, never let the fire happen in the first place. You don't have to worry about any damage. So back to commercial buildings, I know there's been work on AI to replace all the smoke detectors with a flame detector. So you're actually, if you can see it as if there was a camera there 24/7, you know if somebody lights a match, or you know if there's a candle lit, or you know if the trash can caught on fire. Same thing with the new, I'll say, flame detectors or not smoke detectors. Okay, there's a fire, we're going to activate, and we're 100% accurate over a smoke alarm, but you get false alarms all the time because you can have smoke and not necessarily a fire. Now you can actually know there's a fire 10 times more accurate. And even for a home, you could actually put these in every room where you get an immediate notification of a fire situation. So that's coming along too. You'll see that in the next 2 years, along with, flying cars and AI everywhere. But
So, do fire suppression solutions differ for various residential project types?
no, most homes have a 24 by 30-inch cooking area. Some of your fancier homes have we'll say I'll use a brand name, a Viking stovetop, which is commercial grade. It may have 6 burners versus 4, but there are devices that can work on your high-end kitchens. The one company I know has a not only a wall mount device, but one that mounts behind the wall, and you just run the nozzles out, and if it detects fire, it activates, much like a commercial kitchen, puts out the fire. There you go. Even if you have an island stovetop, there's devices that can go above the range on an island stovetop to activate and extinguish the fire.
Now, what feedback have property developers and landlords given about installing fire suppression systems in their rental properties?
Anybody that owns a vacation property, at the beach or mountains, they love us because they're not there and they're renting out their property every week to somebody that may not be familiar with how to use their stove. So if they have if they have something to prevent a stovetop fire and they are notified if it is activated, they can save a whole lot on damages, on and lost rental income if they're not out, if they don't have to repair the kitchen and lose a month's rental, they're way ahead. So for if you own a home just to rent it out yearly or a vacation rental where you rent it out weekly, we're the thing to put in that building because it helps protect the property and losses from the owners.
So, we've touched on single family residential, rental properties,
Mhm.
multifamily. What about assisted living facilities? What unique fire safety needs exist in those assisted living facilities, and how can a suppression system help?
Well, there's a ton of assisted living communities going up. All right. And yes, I will say the senior segment of our society may be a little bit more forgetful than younger people, or they're just the ones that cook and the younger generation doesn't cook. I don't have statistics on that, but the main danger is they forget to turn off the burner and these fire stovetop safety devices would be great for senior living. I mean, it would solve a lot of problems because if you do really drill down on the statistics from the fire departments, you get a bigger percentage on, say, seniors or senior living and apartments than even your single family homes, so don't know whether it's just if you're renting an apartment, it's the lower income apartments that seem to have more incidents. And for your senior living, it just may be, oh, I was just interrupted. My grandson called and I was talking to him. I forgot I was cooking. So it is very beneficial for senior living facilities and for the protection of the owners of their property.
So, what are the key differences then that exist between the various fire suppression systems that are available on the market today?
Well, the key system is just the technology. Okay. One uses dry powder, like if it's really like baking soda, you put it on a fire, it goes out. The problem is it has to actually, when it falls from the top of the range hood, uses gravity, is is it targeted onto the fire, or is the fire somewhere else on the stovetop? So one is powder. One is we're just going to cut the power to the stovetop and hope there's not a flame. And that because we cut the power, the heat goes down and there won't be a combustion. But again, if there's already combustion and smoke detector goes off, it's not going to help. And the third one is they actually use fire suppressant, which is a liquid, which covers the entire 24 by 30-inch surface. So the flame could be everywhere, anywhere, and it would be targeted. And even to the outside on the counter, maybe 6 inches, that's covered also. So you have complete saturation of that whole cooking surface. Flame goes out, you don't have to worry. So like say you have dry powder, you have one is, well, we cut this power to the stove. Now remember, it doesn't work on gas stove tops. Um, but and then you have the one where we use liquid suppressant to extinguish the fire.
So, definitely a lot of choices, various options out there. How can design professionals, though, educate their clients on the importance of these fire safety features?
Well, I think the first thing is just stay there available And would you like your home that we just designed and built for you that may cost, 900 or 1.2 million or beyond, protected? Because one stovetop fire could burn it down to the ground. So why don't you put a safety device in just like the other places in your home? I mean, you have locks on all the doors, don't you? You have lights in every room. You don't want to stumble around a dark room, so you want a light switch and, and a light generally that comes on in the room, along with the railings on your stairway. So this is just another item that you should put in your house to protect your investment. It's as simple as that.
And what innovations are on the horizon for improving home fire suppression technology?
Well, like I say, the next neat thing would be the reinvention of the smoke detector, where it just doesn't rely on smoke, which can be inaccurate, or you already have the fire going for 2 or 3 minutes before the smoke is picked up. So it's basically a runaway fire. So what we can do is with AI detect a flame and notify the occupants a whole lot sooner. Can we spot a nozzle over that fire? Well, right now, just on stovetops. I know that it can be done with lithium batteries with the one company I mentioned. So if you have a charger in your garage, we could specify a fire suppression device for the lithium charger for your electric car. Um, we don't have it yet, or I've seen it. We could even come out with something for uh, a grill, over your grill if it got out of control, or even on your nightstand, we could put something there that maybe looks like a lamp. If you wanted a candle lit, and if there was a fire there, it could activate, put out a fire there. So a spot fire, but it these devices are coming where even I think if we could put one in every room, it'd still be less expensive than your traditional sprinkler system. So we could have a battery operated, self-contained system in every ceiling of every room to detect a fire, but they're not here yet. But all we have is for the stovetops that are affordable and effective. And like I say, you just have to look at the ones and see which is more effective for the money, and then decide from there.
Absolutely. Sounds like we have a lot to look forward to. Mark,
Well,
thank you for shedding your insight on fire suppression systems. But before we go, what is one final piece of industry wisdom that you would like to share with our audience?
well, the safety devices are out there to prevent fires in homes. I mean, the one bit of advice would be, say, if there's a way to reduce fires by 50% by just snapping your fingers, these devices are available, even though they're not spec'd in by law or by fire code or by fire marshals. We need to start using them. You can reduce the chance of a fire by 50%. That's huge. I mean, I'll go through the three major inventions of mankind, right? Um, First was clean drinking water, extended our lives 40 years. The second, which is related to that, is sewage, proper handling of sewage, so you don't have, typhus or sanitation type diseases, right? The third one, which I say is a toss-up, is uh, industrialized farming. Our food sources have been improved so much that we can feed the 8 billion population we have on Earth. I say it may be the cell phone, whereas it's not really put to use as it should be, but a cell phone contains all the knowledge in the world if only we'd use it. And then I'd go fifth, maybe fire suppression in homes. I mean, that's huge. I mean, we have a fire department just about every city block, kinda. So it is still a big, big problem in our society. fires in homes. I mean, you can have fire in a city, you could burn the whole city. Chicago fire. So fires are a big concern in our society. We spend a lot of money on fire mitigation. This is just a great way to do it and do it right. And it's very inexpensive to prevent a fire versus rebuilding from a fire damage. So
Fantastic, Mark.
yeah.
Thank you again for joining us. It has been a pleasure having you on the Spec Shaman podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Spec Shaman podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our show and leave us a review. A huge thank you to our guests who made this show possible. Building product manufacturers who want to increase their specification opportunities, please visit specshaman.com or ronblank.com. Thanks all for this episode, folks. See you next time.